Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today, I am joined by a good old friend, the wonderful Gail Florio, who has her own jewelry business, Florio Designs, and she makes handmade bridal accessories, but even more specifically, she makes these incredible bouquets. So you may have seen some around. I know I always see hers on Instagram and bits and pieces, and they look absolutely gorgeous. So definitely go and check them out. But Gail is going to chat to us today about her journey into building this business and also to talk a little bit about wedding jewelry and the bridal jewelry kind of area, because it is a massive area that lots of jewelers have an interest in. So we're going to have a little chat through her journey as well today. And I actually met Gail at the very beginning of my jewelry making journey, and she was the person who taught me how to make tiaras. So we go way back, and I always remember when we were sat, I think in like my mum's house, in like near the garden, making these little tiaras. So yes, from there to where we are now with our own businesses and the whole journey, the ups and downs and things that have come across is what we're going to be having a little chat about today. So welcome, Gail. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and there's loads of stuff that I didn't talk about, like teaching at London Jewellery School for years, and all. I'm sure all of that will come out because we want
Yeah,
to.
10 years, I think it was in the
Yeah,
end. Yeah.
amazing, amazing. So teacher as well, all of those things. So Gail, how did you get started in jewelry? Was it something you always wanted to do, or did you transition? Where does the story begin?
The story actually begins when I was a teenager. So despite my accent, I am actually Irish. I'm from Dublin. I know I don't sound it. I've been anglicised over the years. I grew up in Dublin, and there was this little bead shop in town that myself and my best friend, who was also in the wedding business and quite creative, and we used to visit that and just kind of play around with kind of jewelry as just kind of making jewelry. And at that point, I used to make kind of earrings, I didn't even have my ears pierced, because I didn't have my ears pierced till I was about 16. And so they'd go to my aunt, and just kind of was always kind of quite creative as a child. But then I didn't do anything kind of with it. I went off to university and did a language and business degree. Um, and then in the UK, which is how I ended up here. And then I got engaged in my late 20s, and I don't know what happened. I just decided that I wanted to make all of the jewelry and accessories for my wedding. So I went on to a tiara course, and I handmade some tiaras, which I actually did use for my wedding party. And then not kind of content with making tiaras, I decided to do a millinery course. I think when I was Googling tiara courses, I came across this millinery course. So I thought, oh, that looks fun. And I embarked on this millinery course, and I did a year at Greenwich Community College, just like an intro, and then I went off to Kensington and Chelsea and did a BTEC, all kind of evening classes, because I was working at the time. And that kind of just reignited my passion kind of for creating that I'd had as a child and a teenager. So for my wedding, I made all of the tiaras, and then I made all of the jewelry, and then I made both mothers fascinators off the back of my millinery course. When the wedding was over, I thought, oh, what am I going to do now? And I just and that's kind of when Florio Designs was born. I just decided to go further with it, and so I think my wedding was in 2008. So it was around that time my business was born, and I created this absolutely awful website when I think about it. You know, one of the this is 2008, and it was a one pager, and just photos weren't great. I didn't even have an iPhone back then.
The dark
So
ages.
the dark ages, absolutely. And I just kind of went from there, and started kind of creating. So started kind of selling really basic jewelry, but was also doing, you know, fascinators and lots of kind of feather works as well. Um, and then I just started looking for courses, just to kind of you know, expand my skills and do more stuff. And that's when I came across you. And I think I was on your first PMC
I think you were.
class.
I think you were on the first class I ever taught, which was
I,
an awesome group.
it was, it was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I met you. We got talking, and I can't. I mean, you know, this is so many years ago now that I can't even remember timelines. But I went and did another course kind of with you, and I think it was just the two of us. I think it was a private course, and we got talking. And a few months later, out of the blue, you called me and said, "Do you fancy coming and being my tiara teacher at the London Jewellery School?"
Sounds about right. Yeah, yeah. And you said yes.
I did say yes. I did say yes. At that point, I was working for a management consultancy, and working in training development. So I did I did actually have kind of, you know, trainer skills. So although I'm not overly comfortable in kind of standing up in front of a class, you know, I did kind of know the techniques and how to kind of deliver courses and stuff like that from my other corporate life. um, and I remember, I actually remember the first class I taught it really well, because and not necessarily because of the class, but we had an electricity fail in our block of flats that we lived in at the time, and the electricity had been off for 2 weeks. It was
Wow.
March.
Gosh.
It was incredibly cold. It was just this freezing cold March. And we were fighting with our management company to kind of have fixing the electricity. So my husband and I basically went round the corner and stayed in the local hotel. And the day I taught that first tiara class was actually my husband's birthday.
Oh.
So we woke up in this local hotel where I'm sure they didn't believe, you know, that we weren't Mr. and Mrs. Smith kind of, you know, from, and you know, we had this mediocre kind of breakfast. It was like, "Happy birthday, darling. See ya."
See you later. I'm off to teach tiaras.
So he couldn't even go back to our flats and kind of watch the Six Nations, which was on at the time. And so, and I went off and kind of left him. And I remember the class went really well, and you know, had some really kind of good feedback. I was so incredibly nervous about it. And that's kind of where it started. So I started doing regular classes for you, and then on the tiara side, we did a 1-day class, and we did a 3-day intensive, and we covered kind of wedding jewelry as well as kind of tiaras and combs and the like. And then then you asked me to do some of the beginners beading classes and the intermediate beaders classes, so I did those as well. And then I became one of the mentors for the year long diploma. So I had I think it was 3 groups that I mentored over that time. But meanwhile, I was also kind of doing classes myself. You know, it's always been fun to kind of learn different things. So, you know, and actually that's probably a really good tip. Just because you think you're good at something, you know, still go off and learn something new. And you never know actually where, even though if it's different to what you've got at the moment, it could well help with you know, with what you've got. So continue the learning and continue that kind of path, I think is something I would really recommend. So then mid, I think, whilst I was working at the London Jewellery School, I had my own website as well. I created an Etsy account in 2010. I know this. I've been looking at my history on Etsy this week, actually, for the last 12 years. And it's really interesting, you know, in those kind of beginning years, just, you know, the odd order every couple of months, and compared to what it is today.
The progress, isn't it? Especially if you feel like progress is slow, but to actually look back and be like, oh, actually, that is real growth.
It is, absolutely. And then in 2013, so I think I'd been working at the jewellery school for about 4 years up until then, I had my daughter. I was still working for the management consultancy, but whilst I was on maternity leave, I was made redundant. Not because of my maternity leave. It was my whole team was made redundant, just as part of a structure. So it was during my maternity leave, I thought, right, I'm going to give this a go. I'm not going to go and find a new job. I'm going to give this a go. So I basically then, my daughter went to nursery 2 days a week, and I had 2 kind of full days to concentrate on the business. At that time, so this is, well, she's 9 now, so 9 years ago, that's when the bouquets started to become quite popular, and I'd done 1 or 2 kind of brooch bouquets, because they seemed to be quite popular. But with my millinery skills, I started making fabric flowers.
What is a brooch bouquet?
Oh gosh, what is a brooch bouquet?
Is it like a kind of burst of,
I tell you what,
in a brooch form? We're going to get one.
I'm going to get one. 2 seconds.
Okay, do it. Those of you guys listening may not be able to see the brooch bouquet, but definitely we will have to share it somewhere. Like, we can describe it. Oh wow! Oh, so it is a bouquet. It's a proper flower bouquet. It's big. It's not a brooch.
This is actually a small one, Jess. So
wow. Yes. Okay. So there's no resemblance to a brooch.
No. So it is.
Oh, I think it's a bouquet made with brooches.
It's a bouquet made just of brooches. So each one is individually wired and then kind of created into a round kind of posy type bouquet. So we don't recommend throwing them, because, you know, obviously take somebody's eye out, although if you don't like your future mother-in-law, you know, you never know, but yes. So that's so I'd started to do that. So I decided that I'd start to, you know, really make an effort with it. And I'd been, with my millinery skills, I'd started to make these kind of fabric flowers, and I'd been doing kind of some of these kind of fabric bouquets. And when I think back then in the beginning to what I do now, you know, the difference is, you know, has greatly improved. So I put a lot of time into creating a new website. Had some help from friends kind of with that. A girl that I used to work with was very kind of web savvy and IT savvy, and she has helped me with my website for a number of years. Stepped up my Etsy account and kind of, you know, really started, you know, putting some effort into my Facebook page, because back then Facebook was, you know, the big thing. It's all Instagram now, but, you know, Facebook. Yeah,
I remember when Facebook. I remember when you posted stuff on Facebook and people saw it.
I know.
Big update, and then you're right. It's interesting how it all kind of shifts over. So you put loads of effort in, and was this during your maternity leave at this point? You had a little bit more time. Still not loads of time because you're raising a small child, but
well, this was actually this was just after my maternity leave had ended, and I was supposed to go back to work, but had been made redundant. So Esme was about a year old when I embarked on this. Yeah. So it started to kind of pick up, and I did a lot more teaching at the London Jewellery School because I had a bit more time to do that as well. And with nursery, I was able to kind of add ad hoc days, which was really useful for when I had my teaching dates. But then towards the end of 2014, I'd had a lunch with a former colleague, and she phoned me out of the blue and said, "Do you fancy coming back?" And I said, "Oh, I don't really know. I'm quite enjoying doing what I'm doing, and it's and I quite liked kind of the freedom of being self-employed as well, because I could just go off and kind of do things and rearrange things and the like." And so I said, but because we're now kind of a year later, the redundancy money had run out. So it was kind of, and I wasn't earning enough to, I was earning a bit, but so I wasn't kind of earning enough to sustain. So the chance of kind of a bit of work, I thought, okay. So I said to my colleague, I said, okay, but I'm only coming back kind of 4 days a week because I still want to kind of continue on my business. And I'm only coming back for 3 months until she basically, one of her team had resigned. They needed, but it had been over the Christmas period, and they never would have hired with a handover. I was available immediately. I knew the company. So I said, I'll come, I'll help you out, but 3 months, and then that's it. So that's
exactly what happened, I'm sure.
Well, so that was 7 years ago, and I'm still there.
Oh, amazing. So you must have enjoyed it to some extent.
Yes. So I went into a different role. So previously I'd been kind of in training and development. This time I kind of went back into the business as a resource manager, which basically means allocating the consultants on their jobs. And what I found was I'd always liked the company. I'd really, redundancy. I was never kind of upset with being made redundant because it was my team. It wasn't personal. It was just a corporate change at the time. They'd kind of moved the training department from London to Cambridge, and that wasn't kind of feasible for me. So there was never any hard feelings kind of about it. And actually, they gave me another year with my daughter on maternity leave. So I can't, I don't have anything bad to say about that period. And also I got this chance to really kind of build my business. But going back, what I realized after a couple of months was it's actually quite lonely being self-employed and being on your own. And I really do enjoy being with people, which is why I really enjoyed teaching at the London Jewellery School, because I enjoyed that interaction with people. And that's kind of one of the downsides of, having your own business and being kind of self-employed, is you are on your own. You don't have that kind of support or the banter by the coffee machine or anything like that. So I found that I actually really enjoyed it. But I kept to 4 days a week, so that I could continue the business. So that's what I'm still doing kind of seven years later. So I do 2 days on, 1 day off. Wednesday is my non-working day, my Florio Designs day. So I'm busy working today. Feathers today.
Love it. Break in the week.
It is, and then back on a Thursday and a Friday. It's quite what I'm finding at the moment is it's whilst I enjoy it, because I do actually really like my corporate job, because I'm interacting with people. And I am a real people person, and I really do enjoy that. But just having this break in the middle, where I can go and be kind of creative and just, well, binge watch Netflix whilst kind of, you know, doing
feathers,
off making feather bouquets and the like. It's just been it's like a stress relief. It's what kind of gets, because my day job, my corporate job is very, very busy. So this is just a nice kind of break in the middle of the week. However, my bridal business has really kicked off, and actually a day isn't enough anymore. So I am finding it quite challenging because obviously, you know, we went into a pandemic and weddings were cancelled, and that suited me fine. I didn't kind of have anything to do. I had a child at home anyway because she couldn't go to school, so having to kind of do orders would have been quite challenging. But then when 2021 kicked in, I had all of the orders
all
that
the
I was
wedding. All
I
the
had
weddings came back.
all of it. So I actually had all of the 2020 weddings postponed into 2021, but my books are open 2 years in advance, so I already had 2021 bookings. So I was just flat out last year, and you know, helpful comments from my mother-in-law going, "Oh, you've taken on too much, you should say no." And it's like,
it's a bit late now. Yeah, because weddings, there's a long lead time, isn't there?
There is a long lead time, which is why I book people in advance, so that I can plan my schedule, and I have their bouquet kind of ready 4 weeks prior to their wedding date. So I have an Excel spreadsheet with everybody's.
Love it.
With everybody's kind of, you know, date, what they need. Sometimes I have to block out a couple of weeks if it's a particularly kind of big order, but I plan kind of that. But last year it was just kind of full on crazy with just having kind of double the amount in a wedding season. And wedding season usually kind of kicks off around April and kind of finishes around September, October. This went right up, and you know, to the end of the year. So then I thought, okay, well, at least that's over. And I made the most on Etsy last year that I'd made in my whole entire time on Etsy. You know, remember 2010 I joined.
Yeah, congratulations, it's exciting.
Thank you.
You can never plan for a pandemic, can you? Like,
no.
Your small businesses, you tried, you did all the right things, you had your spreadsheet, you booked people in, you considered the lead time. So yeah, it just affects us all in different ways. But it's awesome to hear that your books were full and are still are full. And I guess what's interesting with your journey is you left a corporate job to do your jewelry business and then went back to a corporate job and kept your jewelry business, which I think is quite inspiring for people, because sometimes we feel like it has to be one or the other.
Yes.
We have to choose, and perhaps at some point it will come to that, who knows, but just to see that part of your journey, at least, and there's different ways that different people do it, is to have the two. But you also have a little one, and
I do.
You know, how do you juggle it all, or you know, how are you managing it all? And does it kind of, you know, I guess in the pandemic, of course, it's overwhelming, but aside from that, does it kind of work for you? It sounds like it does, with that creative break in the middle. But yeah, just anything you want to share around the juggle.
It is a juggle, and especially kind of at the moment it is kind of encroaching into family life, but I'm very fortunate to have a very supportive husband who takes a lot of kind of the load. So we share all of the childcare. So I'll do a drop off, he'll do a pickup, or vice versa. On Wednesdays I do both because that's my non-working day, so that's actually quite nice. I get to go to the school and pick her up you know, when she finishes school, which is really nice. She's quite crafty as well. which is quite nice. And during the pandemic, she would sit in here. So this is obviously my craft room, but obviously doubling up as my office because I've been working at home now for the last couple of years as well. But during the pandemic, she would basically she went through all of these drawers, and you could see the eyes kind of light up, going, "Oh, I didn't know you had this, mummy. Oh."
What's in there?
Exactly. And of course she's got expensive taste, so I think because of me, plastic beads don't cut it with her. She goes,
of course not. I've seen Swarovskis.
Exactly. So, oh, these are really sparkly, mummy. Can I use these? No. Do you know how much they cost? But she would sit in here and kind of, just kind of craft the entire time. She's so it has been kind of quite challenging, and over the last year I've had to kind of do a lot in the evenings, kind of after work, and on weekends as well, and obviously that takes away from family time. And that does that can kind of cause issues. Thankfully, like I said, my husband is super supportive and really kind of helps out with that. But it is trying to kind of find that balance so it doesn't completely take over your family life as well. I'm hoping one day, as she kind of gets older, that she'll do some of my prep for me.
Family business.
Absolutely. With sort of a pocket money incentive. Unfortunately, she's still too young to kind of realize, if you earn pocket money, you can go and kind of buy stuff. She's still kind of in that childlike world where, she just gets given stuff. But I kind of think, as she kind of gets to her teenage years and she wants to go and buy clothes or earn, money for games or whatever, that, she might kind of, it might feel a bit more appealing to her. I have tried to teach her a few things, and she is interested for all of about 20 minutes and then kind of gets bored. But as she gets older, I can see her taking a bit more interest, because she does look at all of my stuff and she picks it up. Oh, this is nice. Will you show me how to make this? And all of that kind of stuff. So
love it. Love it. Well, it's very inspiring, I think, your story, because there's so many different parts to it, and like most jewelers, you've taken different routes. You've done teaching, you had a bridal business, you now have pretty much a bouquet business, which is still bridal, but it's more niche, which is really nice.
Yes.
Found your own niche. How do you think that affected the growth of your business, going from, because I guess just general bridal, you can grow an amazing business like that, but there's more competition, isn't there, doing tiaras? Maybe you can talk a bit about the bridal market and how you kind of fit in there, and how that's impacted your business.
Absolutely. And I mean, you've got it spot on. There is so much competition with combs and tiaras and kind of wedding jewellery. And I think because a lot, if you are kind of working in that area, a lot of people will use the same material. So there is a lot of people, kind of items that just look the same. There's only so much difference you can put into, a Swarovski pearl bracelet, for example. So it is about trying to stand out from the rest. So as the bouquets started to become more popular, I just started to promote them more, because there's less people kind of doing that now. Obviously, there are more people doing that now, but I think because I've kind of worked with promoting it on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest actually is the best place to promote. And if I look at my Etsy stats, I can see it's, they're not, my traffic to Etsy isn't coming from Facebook. It's not coming from Instagram, although I need to really get better at Instagram. It's coming from Pinterest. And so it is about kind of it is about finding that niche, unfortunately, to make you kind of stand out from the rest. But I think if you are going to go down the bridal business and do bridal jewellery, then you do need to kind of just find something small that kind of stands out, that makes it unique to you. And that, that can be a number of things, from, a logo charm on something that kind of stands out, subtle, but just something that makes it kind of unique to you, so that when people look at the pictures, and remember, they're going to be looking at, lots and lots of pictures, and a lot of them will look the same due to the colors and the style. You need to be able to, for somebody to say, oh, that's definitely a Florio Designs design. So it's about kind of finding something that is unique to you, and running kind of with that, and kind of incorporating it into a collection, or even just having just one item that stands, that other people don't do, that you can add to your collection, that makes you a bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, kind of working on some kind of signature style that people can recognize. And I guess for people starting out as well, like, sometimes it just takes time to get there, doesn't it?
It does take time. It really does take time.
The stage of doing the general stuff, like, because you can't always skip it. Sometimes you have to do the stuff that everyone else is doing, promote it, sell a few on Etsy, like your journey. And then, because if you'd had to wait until you came up with the idea of bouquets, you probably would never have just sat down and come up with it. But actually, through doing the business and developing new things and exploring, having craft days and all of that, where you kind of come up with new things, that's where the inspiration comes. So I think sometimes there's pressure to develop this style, but actually just do the next step and it will kind of emerge, as long as you have it in your mind that it's something you'd like to.
Absolutely. You can't just kind of, force that out. You do have to go along a journey to kind of find your style, and it's not going to come instantly. And you also have to fail a bit as well. Nobody likes to fail, nobody likes that, but actually it can be a really positive thing, to go, okay, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Was and it could be a variety of reasons. Was my price too high? Was it too low? Which is actually, a lot of people undervalue and undersell their work, and that can put people off. Is it just, does it look too much like what everybody else is doing? And so it is okay to fail. And I think it is helpful along the journey to do that. So don't worry if you fail. Just learn from it, and move on to the next thing, and just keep and go off on a tangent. I mean, that's pretty much what I did. like I've in the cupboard there from my millinery course, I have hundreds of pounds of hat blocks and hat making materials. I haven't made a hat in over 10 years now, because my millinery course led me to making alternative bouquets.
You could never have guessed that, would you? You couldn't. And I think that's the thing, like following your intuition. And you, like me, are a course junkie, so we're always doing the next course. So we would always joke about that in the olden days. We'd be like, we love courses so much that we teach courses and do courses and make the money from teaching courses to pay for the next courses we're doing.
Absolutely. Love it.
But from doing that course, you found this kind of signature style and direction that you could never have guessed. And it's probably, you just did what you just wanted to do. You just thought, I wanted this course. I have no idea why or where it's going to lead, but I'm going to do it and do it well. And that's amazing. And I think we all have, or have the potential to have journeys similar to that in our own little ways.
Absolutely.
A little bit about pricing, because I know we touched on it, is particularly in the bridal jewelry market and how that affects, because I guess now as well you're making pieces that I'm presuming take a long time, that are, a bouquet is a big thing in your wedding. There's normally a budget for the bouquet and all of that. How do you manage with like having conversations with people about prices? Do you ever feel, or when you first started, because I imagine that there should be a good price tag on them. you know, I can imagine that there could be that sort of fear of, oh, can I talk about this and how do I talk about it? I don't know how it came up for you, but just anything you want to share really around that area, particularly in bridal jewelry businesses.
So I actually have a price list, which I review on an annual basis. And actually that kind of negotiates well, basically stops the negotiation. I have a set price list.
This is it. Take it or leave it. I like that.
Pretty much, because so people often say you're too expensive, but you know, no, you don't have the budget for my items. So I came up with a price list when I kind of started focusing more on the bouquets. I actually created a whole price list. So I've now got 4 different styles of bouquets that I offer. So I created a price list based on the styles. So some are more labor intensive than others. The materials are more expensive than others. So my prices just, you know, reflect that. But I did a lot of research. I went and had a look at people doing similar to me, and I took top, bottom, middle, and I came up with my own kind of price based on then, you know, how long it takes me as to the market price, and came up with a price list. And then I have so like I said, 4 different styles, but then I offer different sizes. So I like to think actually I've got you know, stuff for in everyone's budget, but you will always hear that, oh no, too expensive, and that's because they don't really understand, you know, what I'm doing. They just think it's artificial flowers, but I'm not artificial flowers. I don't buy the artificial flowers, I make them. And that is why my bouquets are more expensive than an artificial flower bouquet, which are bought in flowers, to which are equally beautiful and lovely, but it's just a different style and a different way of making the bouquets. So when people come to me, they say, you know, what are your prices? I send them the price list, and I don't negotiate. So I do
a simple process.
It does make things easier. Now I do kind of run sales. I usually kind of do a New Year's sale where I'll do like 10% off, and then I hop on Black Friday occasionally, depending on how busy I am at the time and whether I can kind of be bothered. And that sounds awful, but
no, it's true. You've got to make it work for you, haven't you? Especially working 1 day a week. You don't want to be overwhelmed. You want the right amount of orders.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. But having the price list basically stops the negotiation. These are my prices, and and I you know, so
take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. And actually I haven't really had anybody negotiate. Now I do get asked to do, you know, the odd bespoke tiara and comb from time to time, and I then have to price those, and then that's when my brain goes blank and I think, oh, I don't know. I don't know how to price this, because I'm just used to having my price list now. So in those kind of situations, I then go and again have a look in the market and see what people are charging for similar. And again, I look at the top, the bottom, and the middle, and then I work out how long it's going to take me personally and come up with a price that way.
Love it. Yeah. And I think the thing that's, you know, most inspiring is you don't seem impacted by what other people think, which I think is what we all want to be when it comes to pricing, is just, this is the deal. You're welcome to it, but also you're welcome to not have it. And you know, not a reflect, like you said, it's not that your prices are too high. And I think with bridal jewelry in particular, people often underprice. Yes. And I think people do have budgets in mind for things. And sometimes if you're too low, they think, oh no, that won't be good. I don't want that on my wedding day. It's
absolutely.
not good
Absolutely.
enough.
Yeah.
It's this interesting kind of whole psychology behind it to have a think about as well. But yeah, awesome.
But also there's this kind of misconception as well that in the world that, you know, you mentioned the word wedding and everything, you know, increases in price, and actually that's not the case. You know, what people don't understand is, okay, yes, a cake is going to be a bit more expensive for a wedding cake than it is for, say, a birthday cake, but that's because that cake has to sit for a really long time, so it has to be tip top. The ingredients have to be, you know, really, really high end, and not like kind of, you know, a birthday cake where, you know, it's given and within an hour is cut, you know. So the people are costing for the amount of effort that actually goes in. So it's not that it's, oh, it's a wedding, we'll up the price. It's actually more effort goes in because this is such a special day that you know, you do have to put a lot more effort into it to make sure it's absolutely perfect, and that's why it's, you know, seems slightly more expensive than, you know, what you would buy if it was not a wedding.
Absolutely, yes, couldn't agree more. It's always easy to look outside and judge, isn't it? But actually, everyone generally is cares about what their products, you know, the outcome that they have, and wants the best for them, and to see their brides looking glorious with their bouquets or tiaras or whatever we have made for them. And I think there's a heightened level of sort of, you know, deadline, stress, anxiety for everyone involved. So it
Absolutely.
makes sense. So what advice would you give to someone thinking about starting a bridal business now?
Um, oh gosh, that is a good question. Um, do your research. Do your research. You know, have a look at what is selling. Um, Also have a think about what you enjoy doing, because what you don't want to do is, if you think something is going to be sell really well, you don't want to hate doing it. So you know,
Gonna make 100 of these horrible combs.
exactly,
Yeah.
because that's immediately going to put you off taking it any further. So you actually have to enjoy what you're about to do. So research. You need to know what's out in the market. You need to understand cost of materials. So that does mean, you know, finding good suppliers, and actually you need to build relationships with suppliers as well. So I've built some good relationships kind of over the years. Just with you know, with various kind of people, so I know where to get certain things from, and it, you know, you're not ever going to get the same thing in one place. So know your suppliers, and build relationships with your suppliers. Know your market, know what's kind of selling well, but ultimately enjoy what you're about to do, and also be willing to develop it with feedback that comes in.
Yes, that open-mindedness, isn't it, to
Yeah,
be next, and listening to your customers, and, you know, like we were talking about before, developing that style that's your own, so that you kind of become a little bit untouchable, because you're like, well, this is what I do. And a bit like you with your bouquets, it's like, well, that's what you do, that's your price list. If they want it, they have it, and if they don't, that's absolutely fine. And I think that's a really nice place to be in for a business, is that kind of identity and understanding of who we are, what we're offering, and who it's for.
absolutely. And you know, the brides that do book me, they understand my style, they know what it is, and they're great to work with, because obviously they then get to kind of influence how we kind of do it, as well. So I guess another tip is you also need to be a people person. you know, because this is the biggest day of somebody's life, and they're putting a lot of effort into their design. You are only one small bit of their overall design, so you need to understand what they're looking for as well, and you know, be able to you know, have that, you know, excited chat with them, because they are excited. So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, love that. Yes, people person to do weddings, definitely, because it's that you're part of that whole
Absolutely.
experience and event for them. Yeah.
And I think for me, you know, it started off with my wedding that kind of got me into this. And I never wanted that to end. My wedding was amazing. You know, I had such a great time. I never really wanted to end. And this way, it hasn't.
Yeah, you keep kind of having that
Yeah.
wedding experience vicariously through working with brides, which is awesome, and it's something you're passionate about. And I think
Yeah.
it must be lovely for them to work with you, because you understand what they've gone through, and you understand, you know, the stresses involved, but also the excitement. And
Yeah.
so it's lovely to see that relationship as well, which is probably one of the reasons why it's grown too.
The best bit of all of it actually is after the wedding. A lot of them send me a photo, and so I get to actually see them in their beautiful dress, and you know, with their bouquet and everything, and that's kind of, you know, that's a real highlight.
Yes, yeah, it must be very rewarding to see that, and to because it is quite, it's a centerpiece, really, isn't it? The whole day, at very crucial moments. So beautiful. Yes. Well, Gail, thank you so much for coming on and sharing about your journey and your tips, and you know, your passion for this type of business. It's been absolutely lovely to chat with you. We've not spoken for ages as well. So
I know. I think yeah, it was probably the Big Beach show a couple of years ago. I think it was when I last saw you.
Big Beach show. Oh,
yes,
I love the Big Beach show.
Another great tip: always go to the Big Beach show. Always. And do the courses there. They're fantastic.
Loads of great courses there, and you might even see Gail at one of them.
Absolutely.
At the show. Yes, absolutely. And so, Gail, if people want to come find you, see your gorgeous bouquets, and connect with you online, where's the best place for them to come?
I still use my Facebook page probably the most.
Well, do that. We can get on Facebook.
Yeah. I have it linked to my Instagram, so it automatically kind of filters through, which is why I sort of said earlier on, I'm not great with Instagram. I probably need to work that out a bit more. Then my Etsy shop, and I am actually going through a big redesign of my website at the moment. So it's currently turned off, just because I'm trying to, I've moved now to Shopify, just for easier kind of payments and invoicing and stuff, that now that, you know, it has actually stepped up a notch in the last couple of years. So I need to turn that on, but I'm just trying to get better pictures, because just you really need good pictures.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to see, even a successful business, like there's still all the things to do. It never ends, does it? There's that's what kind of keeps it interesting as well. And I can't wait to see your new website, and we'll definitely put links to your social media and anything that is up at the time that this is going out. So to go and say hi to Gail, tag us in your story so we can know that you guys have had a listen, and go and check out her bouquets. And if you know anyone getting married, then you know where to send them. Wonderful. Well, yeah, thanks again, Gail. And
thank you, Jess.
Best of luck for the next phase of your business, and best of luck to everyone out there starting or growing their own bridal jewelry businesses. We can't wait to see your successes too. So we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Jess.